Let me tell you something, Pac Nation. So Rashan Gary posted goodbye on Instagram. Full farewell graphic, nice fonts, beautiful design, heartfelt message from a Green Bay Packer. And then, and I need you to hear this, someone tells us his account got hacked. A hacker broke into this man's phone and decided, you know what? Let me take 20 minutes out of my busy criminal schedule and design this jabroni a beautiful farewell tribute, complete with custom fonts and a heartfelt message. A hacker did that out of the goodness of his criminal heart. Pro bono graphic design from a hacker. That is what we are being asked to believe, Pac Nation. I had to sit down when I read this. Brother, that graphic was ready. That thing was sitting in a folder on somebody's phone for weeks, labeled use when needed. Now, I'm not here to call Gary a liar. I am simply saying that is the most convenient hack in the history of social media. The hacker even knew what to write. Like all chapters in life, this one has come to an end. Beautiful. Did the hacker workshop that all week? Was he drafting versions? Did he have notes? Did he run it by a friend? Did he have a whole editing process going on? But fine. We move on, because here's what I really want to talk about today. And Pac Nation, I need you to buckle in, because I've been sitting on this since October. 7.5 sacks, 7.5 for $24 million a year. And all offseason, people are telling me, Sal, Gary finally put it together. Gary is the guy. I want to ask every single one of those people, did you watch the whole season? Because what I saw was not a breakout. What I saw was one of the great magic tricks in recent Packers history. Here's what actually happened. After 7 games, just 7, Rashan Gary led the entire National Football League in sacks. Number 1, the whole league, 7.5 sacks and 7 tackles for loss. I was at the kitchen table telling my wife, Darlene, this is the year. This is finally the year Gary goes off. She gave me the look. You know the look, that slow, patient look of a woman who has heard this exact sentence before. My 11-year-old has started giving me the same look. I genuinely believe they practiced it together, specifically for when I talk about the Packers. So, what happened in Week 8? Nothing. Week 9? Nothing. 10, 11, 12? Nothing. 13, 14, still nothing. Not a sack, not a tackle for loss, not a whisper. You want to know what Rashan Gary had from Week 8 through the end of the regular season and the playoffs? 0 sacks. 0 tackles for loss. 0. I am not making this up. 337 players. 337 people across this entire league had at least a half sack from Week 8 on. Gary had 0. And you know who did produce down the stretch? Colin Oliver, a rookie making his NFL debut in Week 18. The first professional game of his life, had a tackle for loss. Shamar Bartholomew, a practice squad call-up who barely had a locker that week, tackle for loss. Gary, gone, 0. Like he evaporated into thin Wisconsin air. He went from leading the entire league after Week 7 to tie for 28th at the end of the year. First to 28th, the whole league could not catch him in Week 7. The whole league left him behind by Week 17. And here's what makes it so much worse. This is not even the first time. In 2023, Gary had 4.5 sacks in the first 5 weeks, then 4.5 more over the entire rest of the season. 12 games, same hot start, same cold disappearance, the exact same pattern, and Gutekunst still handed him $96 million. I cannot explain it. Now, I know what some of you are saying. Sal, Parsons got hurt in week 15. And yes, Micah Parsons tore his ACL at Denver in week 15, and that was devastating. I am not disputing it. But Gary went cold in week 8. Parsons did not fall until week 15. That is 7 full weeks of nothing before the injury even happened. Do not blame Denver for a crime that started in October, brother. The body was cold long before that. You follow what I'm saying? I want to explain to you exactly why those first 7 weeks looked the way they did. Because this right here is what has me pacing around the kitchen at 7 in the morning while my daughter is just trying to eat her cereal in peace and pretend she does not have a lunatic for a father. Because while Rashan Gary was lighting up the stat sheet in those first 7 games, Micah Parsons, the best pass rusher in this league, the man every offensive coordinator in America had nightmares about, was on the other side of that defensive line, drawing every double team, every chip block, every tight end told to stay home, every guard told not to release into his route. Every single offensive game plan was built around stopping one man, and that man was not Rashan Gary. When the other team devotes every resource to stopping one player, you know what happens to the edge rusher on the opposite side of the field? He gets clean one-on-one matchups all day, every snap, every game. And when an edge rusher in the National Football League gets clean one-on-one matchups all day while the guy next to him eats every double team, he gets sacks. That is not a breakthrough. That is not finally putting it together. That is not worth $24 million a year. That is arithmetic. And Pac Nation celebrated it like Gary earned it in the vacuum, like Parsons was not standing right there doing the actual heavy lifting every single play. We gave Gary credit for a matchup advantage that Parsons created for him. That is the whole story. Stay with me here because I want to tell you a story. This reminds me of a guy my brother-in-law Dale worked with at the warehouse over in Marinette. Big fella named Dennis, always loud, always moving, always the most visible guy in the building whenever the boss came through. Dennis was hustling boxes, working the customers, acting like he was running for mayor. You would genuinely think this man was Employee of the Month, every single month. Best worker in the county. You would stake money on Dennis. You know what Dennis did the second the boss stepped out for lunch? Lawn chair, break room, bag of chips, phone out. Every single time. Clockwork. Because Dennis needed an audience. He needed a dominant presence next to him. Somebody the whole building was watching to make him look good by comparison. Put Dennis out in front as the guy, the one everybody was counting on. Dennis had absolutely nothing. No output, no production. Dale had to explain Dennis to management twice. The second time, management finally understood they had been paying this man like a star performer for years because he happened to stand next to one. He was not a star. He was a beneficiary. That is Rashan Gary's career. I am sorry, but that is exactly what it is. In 7 years, Gary has never hit double digits in sacks. Not once. Career high is 9.5. 7 seasons, and we handed him $96 million on a 4-year extension in October of 2023. While this pattern was already established, the first half hot start, the second half vanishing act. Gutekunst had the footage. He had already watched this movie once, and he still signed the extension. Are you hearing this? $24 million a year. And now we are cutting Gary to save $11 million before the league year opens, which we desperately need. And you know who the next man up at edge rusher is? Lucas Van Ness. Lucas Van Ness has started 2 career games. 2 in 3 years. He played 23.5% of defensive snaps this season, barely on the field when Parsons was healthy. And now Parsons is coming off an ACL, Kingsley Enagbare is heading to free agency, and Lucas, 2 career starts is what we are rolling out. I am not saying Van Ness cannot develop into something. I am saying we did not solve the problem. We moved it around the room, called it roster management, and put a press release on it. The cap space is real. The pass rush is still a question mark. My wife walked by while I was doing the research for this rant. She looked at my laptop, looked at me, kept walking, shook her head, no words. That is exactly where we are at, Pack Nation. That is the situation. Look, I wanted Gary to be the guy. The 2022 comeback from that torn ACL, one of the best stories this franchise had in years. I rooted for him. But rooting for somebody and paying them $24 million a year are 2 completely different conversations. And the people running this team kept confusing the 2. And the hack story, you know what? Even his goodbye needed somebody else to take the blame for it. His account got hacked into a heartfelt farewell graphic. Sure it did, brother. Sure it did. Subscribe to the Packernet podcast. Leave us a review. Tell a friend. Tell them to watch the whole season, not just the first 7 weeks. Let's go Pack!